Hey, what is going on guys? QWERTY Rebooted here, back with another Minecraft video on my channel. Today I have a How to Redstone episode for you, so let's get straight into it. So today I will be explaining pulse extenders. Now for those of you who can't guess, pulse extenders are used to extend the length of redstone pulses. Who would have thought? As you can see in this example, a button will output a single pulse when pressed. The redstone lamp turns on instantly, stays on for the duration of the pulse, and then turns off. What we are trying to achieve is for the redstone lamp to turn on instantly, stay on for the duration of the pulse, stay on a little bit longer, and then turn off. This might seem useless now, but used correctly, it can help solve some pretty big problems. Practical applications would include things like keeping a door open for a longer period of time to avoid constantly running into it. So, as you can see in this first example, we press the button and there isn't a whole lot of time for us to get through the door. You can see it just shuts right in front of us. However, in the second example, just by adding on a simple pulse extender, the time we have to get through the door is greatly increased. Another practical application of pulse extenders would be to prevent multiple block updates from occurring. So, assuming we have a redstone signal running past two pistons, but we only want this piston to fire once and this piston to fire twice. Well, here comes the first signal, and here comes the second signal. As you can see, this piston did only fire once and this piston did fire twice. And thanks to the pulse extender, this is possible. There are even more uses for this circuit, and once you understand how it works, you will figure out what they are. In today's video, I will feature 3 pulse extender designs. There are literally hundreds of different ways to make pulse extenders in Minecraft. Now, in my opinion, these are the 3 most useful, easiest to build pulse extender designs. Just don't feel limited to these ones in your redstone contraptions. The first design is called the comparator extender. As you can see, we push the button and the pulse is extended considerably. Basically, what is happening here is that this button is powering this block with a signal strength of 15. This block then powers this redstone dust, which is also our output. So as long as this redstone dust is powered, we will be getting an output. Anyway, this redstone dust will also power this redstone comparator. Now, comparators in Minecraft have 0.1 seconds of delay, which means that that's how long it's going to take for the pulse to pass through it. Anyway, this comparator then runs into the second piece of redstone dust, and while the signal is busy going from the second piece of redstone dust through to the third piece of redstone dust, it will lose 1 signal strength. So now we have a new signal strength of 14. This comparator will then receive the signal and add another 0.1 seconds of delay, which means that a total of 0.2 seconds later, this block will receive a new signal and power this redstone dust before it turns off. Now, that cycle will basically continue. However, after this transition between the second piece of redstone dust and the third piece of redstone dust has taken the signal strength down to 0, because obviously it's losing 1 signal strength every time it passes through these two, then that will cause the redstone lamp to turn off, and we will no longer be getting an output. So there is a little bit of math involved here. Each of these comparators adds 0.1 seconds of delay, which means that because we have 2 comparators, we have 0.2 seconds of delay, and that should be fairly self-explanatory. However, the more difficult part to understand is that we start with a signal strength of 15, and for every 1 rotation that happens, we lose 1 signal strength, which means that we will have 15 rotations before the signal runs out. So what happens then is that means we have to times the 0.2 seconds of delay by the 15 rotations, and that gives us a total length of 3 seconds. However, then we also have the button's pulse to account for, because the button itself has delay and all that kind of stuff, which adds up to 1 second of on time for the lamp. So then we add the button's 1 second it provides and the pulse extender's 3 seconds it provides together, and we get a total on time of 4 seconds for this redstone lamp, which is very useful. The way that we build it is pretty simple. So you want to start by placing a button on a block. Now place in a piece of redstone dust next to that block. Now take a comparator output from that first piece of redstone dust and run it into 2 more pieces of redstone dust. Now take a comparator output from the last piece of redstone dust you placed in and run it back into the original block. So right now this pulse extender is good to go. You just need to run it into an output. I'm running it into a redstone lamp, but you could run it into just about anything. So you can see this is all in working order, but we can still increase the delay further, hence giving us more on time for the lamp. We can have up to 10 comparators in the circuit, which means 5 on the right side and 5 on the left side. So all we need to do is make sure that they are flowing in the correct directions and we will not have a problem. One thing you do just need to take into account is that if you use any more than 10 comparators, this will break. Another thing you need to take into account is that you can only have even numbers of comparators, so you can't have odd numbers. So 2 comparators would work, 1 comparator wouldn't. 4 comparators would work, 3 comparators wouldn't. I'm pretty sure you get the idea. So now we have added on those 2 extra comparators, and now the pulse will be longer. The second design is called the repeater extender. As you can see, we push the button and I promise there was some form of pulse extension there. It is just really difficult to see. I'll push the button again so that you can try and see it more clearly. So this would of course be one of the less practical designs, and that is because it runs on older mechanics. It uses a repeater instead of comparators as in the other 2 designs in this video. However, if you have been watching my Survival Blues episodes, you will know that comparators are not always readily available, and it is always good to have a workaround such as this one. Now if you have no clue what I am talking about, there will be a link on screen right now or down in the description of this video to the video in which that was a problem. Anyway, the way that this works is really simple. So this button will power this block, which will do 2 things. First, it will power this redstone line, which is our output. So as long as we keep this powered, we will be getting an output. Second, this block will power this repeater. Now this repeater can either add 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 or 0.4 seconds of delay. And that is basically how long it will take for the pulse to travel through the repeater before it moves on in the circuit. Anyway, once the pulse has traveled through the repeater, then it will power this block and this block will power the redstone line before the redstone line loses power from the first block powering it. So yeah, that is the way it works, and it is really simple to build. So you want to start by placing a button on a block. Now take a repeater output from that block and run it into another block. And now you can place redstone dust next to both of the blocks and the repeater. And now that is good to go. You can just add on your output and this is fully functional. But there are still ways for us to increase the delay in the circuit and get a longer pulse. So the first way should be fairly self-explanatory. we just change the repeater setting from 1 tick, which is 0.1 seconds, to 4 ticks, which is 0.4 seconds. Already there will be a big difference in the pulse extension. The second way we can increase the delay is to simply add more repeaters. Now, of course, every time you add in a repeater, you will need to place a block in front of it, and you will need to place redstone dust next to both of those. And obviously we can change the tick settings here as well. Now, of course, these don't both have to be on either maximum or minimum. We could set that one to 2 and that one to 3, for example, and it will still work. Just note that this redstone line cannot be carried out for more than 15 blocks. Now, carrying it out further than that won't necessarily break the circuit, but it won't enhance it. Once you reach 15 pieces of redstone dust in this line, then that will be the maximum pulse extension for this design. However, you can still get a fairly decent pulse off of that, but the signal strength limitation does provide a problem in that you can't extend this infinitely. The third and final design for today's video is called the hopper extender. Now, if you have watched my video on clock circuits, you will notice that this looks very similar to the hopper timer. And you would be correct in saying that, because they work on very similar mechanics. So, as you can see, we push the button and, well, this is going to take a while. This circuit produces arguably one of the longest pulses possible to get from a pulse extender in Minecraft. As you can see, we have however many items we want inside this first hopper, and then they are transferred to the second hopper, and then from there the second hopper transfers them back to the first hopper, and once all of that has happened, then our output will turn off. So, the way that this works is a little bit complicated to explain, but I will do my best to make you all understand it. So, as you can see, this first hopper has items inside of it, and the second hopper doesn't. They both have comparator outputs coming out of them. Starting with the second hopper, this comparator isn't outputting a signal because, obviously, there are no items inside the hopper. So that means that it is not powering this block, and that means this block is not powering this redstone dust, and that means that this redstone dust isn't powering this normal piston. The first hopper, on the other hand, does have items inside of it, so its comparator is giving out an output into this block, which is powering this redstone dust. Now, I'm not 100% sure on why this piston isn't extended, but I know it has something to do with the fact that it has a redstone block on it. Well, that is at least my best guess. It should also be noted that this is a sticky piston, so while this block will stick to it, it will not stick to this regular piston. When we press the button, the signal, for some reason, becomes strong enough to allow the sticky piston to extend. That will move the redstone block across. That will lock the second hopper and unlock the first one. So that will then allow all of the items that were locked in the first one to flow through into the second one. This is of course powering this piston, but because the first piston is already extended, this regular piston cannot extend. Once all of the items flow out of the first hopper, the comparator will very briefly stop outputting a signal and cause this piston to retract. Then this piston will push forward. Once all of the items have flown out of this hopper, then this piston will retract. But because this piston isn't a sticky piston, it won't pull the block with it, and it won't just get locked in place, like this piston did. So I hope that makes a bit of sense so far. As I said, it is really challenging to explain, but basically the entire time that this hopper is filled with items and this piston is being powered, we will be getting an output. Now that is because if we just demonstrate this again, there are no items in this hopper. But when we press this button, suddenly an item comes into this hopper and we start getting an output. Then everything I just spoke about happens here to make the circuit stay on for a little while and then turn off eventually. And once all of the items have flown in here and all of the items have flown out, then eventually our output will turn off. Yeah, that is very difficult to explain, but once you have built it and you are using it for yourself, you will get a better understanding of it. I can almost guarantee that, but I won't, because there are those of you who will take that 100% to heart. Anyway, the way that you build it is a little bit complicated, so just pay attention and you will be fine. Start by placing two hoppers running into each other. Now take a comparator output from both of these hoppers. Make sure that both of those comparators are running into blocks. Now place a piece of redstone dust on top of each of the blocks. Now take a sticky piston and place it facing inwards above one of the comparators. And do the same on the other side, only with a regular piston. Now you can place a redstone block on the face of the sticky piston. Now you need some form of input, so we can place a button on the block that is closest to the sticky piston. And now we need some form of output. You are going to run your output out from this piece of redstone dust that is closest to the regular piston. Do not run it out from this piece of redstone dust closest to the sticky piston. That would not work. It has to be this piece of redstone dust that is closest to the regular piston. I'm using a redstone lamp, but you could run it into any form of output. And now we only have one thing left to do, and that is to put all of the items inside the hoppers. The first time you place in your items, it will just activate for a little while, but then you will be able to activate it manually after it's finished this first cycle. So the way that you would increase the length of this pulse in this circuit is different to the last two that I've showed you. In the last two we needed to increase delay to make the pulse longer. However, in this one we can just add in more items. Of course, you can also add in less items if you want to. You can have between 1 item and 5 stacks of items in this circuit before it breaks. So, that just about wraps up today's redstone tutorial. If you want to see more pulse extender designs in future videos, just let me know down in the comments section. Please like this video and share it with your friends, just to make sure that it gets out to a wider audience. Also, subscribe to my channel and ring that notification bell just so that you never miss out on any of my channel's content. And with that being said guys, I'll see you in the next video. QWERTY Rebooted out.